And for the WWE to put him in the main event with no sort of title, no sort of John Cena to be found anywhere, that is a statement that the WWE says they're ready to push this guy. They are pushing him. Alright, here we go. Raw review for Monday, June 24th, 2013. And I'm going to go ahead and just put this out here right away. Get it out of the way. This episode of Raw was good. It was a good episode of Raw. It wasn't great. It wasn't epic, as I've heard some people say. It was just this amazing episode of Raw. No, it was a good Raw. It wasn't great, but it was good. It was a good episode of Raw with two great matches, one of them being fucking spectacular. But there were a couple of things that held it back from being a great Raw. And I'm going to get into what those things are as we go through it here. So let's get this started. Show opens with Daniel Bryan coming out. He comes out and the crowd is super hot for him. They are on fire. And he is obviously the most over guy in the company at this point. There's no denying that. CM Punk didn't get that kind of reaction. John Cena hasn't gotten that kind of reaction in 6 fucking years. So, yeah, he's definitely the most over guy at this point. And when he came out, he cut a very babyface, very PG promo. We're talking about stuff with The Hobbit and some other bullshit. It was kind of blah, kind of mellow. You know, it was a babyface promo that I almost felt like was necessary to cement his status as a babyface, but I've definitely heard the guy cut better promos than that, but it was alright. And that's when Randy Orton comes out. This is supposed to be the third match in the series of matches that have gone on throughout the past week here. Orton comes out and he basically says, "Shut up and fight." And what does Daniel Bryan do? He fucking punches Orton right in the face, just fucking waylays him, and the two of them start going at it right away. And that was great to see. And you know why that happened? Because Bryan's a baby face and Orton's a baby face. So because they're both faces, nobody ran away in this fight. There wasn't a heel to be found. There wasn't a bully to be found. So nobody ran away. They stayed and they fought because they're good guys. And that's terrific. I mean, the match barely got started, and then they both got disqualified. The match was basically stopped because they wouldn't stop beating the shit out of each other. And that was pretty much the end of the segment. Great way to open the show, and had a lot of energy going into it. And one thing that made this episode of Raw work, too, was the crowd. The crowd was pretty jacked for the majority of the night, and that really helped this Raw out a lot, too. So it comes back from commercial, I think, and then we got a backstage segment where Daniel Bryan is flipping out on Vicky Guerrero, asking for another match with Orton on Raw tonight. And Vicky Guerrero eventually gives it to him. And I think there was some other stuff going on during this segment. I don't know. I can't really remember because my brain actually physically suffered scarring. The tissue inside my brain suffered some scarring from Vicky Guerrero's god-awful laugh. Jesus Christ. That is not entertaining at all. That just fucking grates on your ears and on your brain, and it makes it bleed. I mean, you start fucking... I tried to check my ears to make sure my head didn't fucking explode. My brain didn't burst in there. But I definitely slipped into some sort of psycho coma and went out for a couple of minutes because I don't remember what the fuck happened after that. When I came back, it was Rhodes Scholars versus Sheamus and Christian tag team match. And I just gotta wonder how much do Damian Sandow and Cody Rhodes gotta hate working with Sheamus at this point. How much do they fucking hate that? The guy just won't leave him alone. It's like you're getting sexually harassed by a coworker every single day at work, and you're trying to go to your management and say, please make this guy stop, but he keeps coming after him. You talk about bullying somebody around. Sheamus is fucking, he just won't leave him alone. He won't give him a fucking break, especially Cody Rhodes. God. But the match was good because Christian was in for the majority of it working. Sheamus eventually got the hot tag. After that, the match was over in like a minute. He did, what, 2 fucking moves, and then wound up bro-kicking Cody Rhodes. And, oh man, poor Cody Rhodes. So Sheamus picks up the victory, and Cody, he heads backstage to, add another cut to his wrists because he's fucking depressed because he keeps jobbing out. How much does it gotta suck to be Cody Rhodes when you get your sheet for the week from the WWE management offices saying, okay, on Raw, here's what's gonna happen. You're gonna job to Sheamus. Here we got you on Tuesday night, a TV taping. You're gonna job to Sheamus again. And here on Wednesday, we're gonna have you job to fucking Wade Barrett or something. And here on Thursday, we're gonna have you job to Christian. And then it looks like on Friday, at another house show, you're gonna be jobbing to Sheamus again. So yeah, he's back there slitting his wrists after the match, and Sheamus is back there sticking another bead up his anus because he's a fucking dick face, just like John Cena. John Cena Jr. He's right there, buddy, and I can't stand him. So next up was the women's match, Caitlyn versus Oksana. And this match lasted like a minute. Caitlyn got a spear. The match was over. And then AJ came out, I think even during the match, wearing a bodysuit to make her look like Caitlyn. And it was kind of funny. It got a chuckle out of me. I chuckled. The best was her insulting, throwing shots at Caitlyn, talking about how she was like a man, saying that, Caitlyn's always dreamed of finding a man with a voice as deep as hers. That was pretty funny. I mean, I did laugh at that. And then she walked away with Biggie Langston. That was the end of the segment. Considering how good the women's segment was last week, I did expect a little bit more this week, but yeah, it was better than what it what it was for the past couple of years at least. And I actually watched it again. That's 2 weeks in a row, so that's good, I guess. Next up was Alberto Del Rio versus Chris Jericho. And I expected this match to be good. These guys are both good workers. Jericho especially. Del Rio, depends on who he's working with, can bring out the best in him. And Jericho definitely did that. And this match went from good to great as it progressed. I mean, it was a long, entertaining match. Lots of back and forth. I really enjoyed this match. The only downside I had with this match was that, for me anyway, was that I kept waiting for Dolph Ziggler to make an appearance, to come out and do something during this match, because they kept talking about him. The announcers kept talking about him, which was good. It kept him in the mix for the people watching at home, kept his name in their minds. But he just didn't come out, and I was just waiting for that to happen. But eventually, the match went on for a long time, lots of counters. Del Rio locked in the cross arm breaker on Jericho, and Jericho did a very cool counter where he used getting his feet up on the ropes and flipping out of it into a Walls of Jericho, and then he cinched that in, and there was a cool counter, and that was the end of the match because Ricardo Rodriguez came in and attacked Jericho from behind, so Jericho picked up the disqualification victory. And that's when Dolph Ziggler came out. Dolph Ziggler came out, crowd popped. He hit the zigzag on... I couldn't remember who he hit the zigzag on, if it was Del Rio or Rodriguez. But he hit Del Rio with the zigzag. And afterwards, he and Jericho are having this face-off in the ring. It was pretty cool. Ziggler looked very intense, and Jericho looked pretty intense too. It was a cool face-off. And then Jericho goes to walk past Ziggler. Ziggler nails him with a zigzag as he's walking out of the ring. And he just starts flipping out, and he looked pretty pumped. I do appreciate the fact that they haven't fully converted Ziggler over to a face yet. He's kind of in that gray area right now, and I'm fine with that. I do wish that this feud between him and Del Rio was getting more screen time, more focus put on it, because I still have a really bad feeling that the WWE is they're just going to fuck him over. They're just going to fuck Dolph Ziggler over. Yes, he's going to turn face, but after his match at Money in the Bank, I believe he's not going to get that title, and he is going to go back to these mid-card matches. He'll be like United States champion again, which isn't going to do fucking shit for him, and that's just, it's just going to fucking upset me. But I'm not gonna flip out completely yet. I'm gonna hold back. I'm gonna keep it all in. I'm gonna wait to see what they do. But I got that bad feeling that it's not gonna turn out so well for Ziggler. Next up was a gigantic commercial for the WWE video game cover. And I skipped over all of it. I just took a look at the cover, the actual cover reveal of the game, where it was The Rock. Now let's talk about this for a minute. The Rock is on your newest video game cover. When people are in EB or GameStop and they're checking out, you know, to see all the games on the shelf, they're going to see The Rock as the new face of the company on the video game, at least, for the next year. How much fucking sense does that make? That doesn't make any goddamn sense. Because The Rock has pretty much said that he's not even coming back anymore, ever. And if he does come back, it's going to be for one match at WrestleMania, and that's it. You're really going to put a guy who you can't even consider a part-time worker anymore as the cover of your video game for the next year? Why not put on somebody from the current roster? I'll tell you why. Because they don't have anybody big enough to put on there. They already used Punk. The only other person you could possibly go with at this point is Sheamus, but they didn't make that call. They put The Rock on. So, gee, I wonder why the WWE has such a hard time creating new stars. Because they do fucking shit like this where they're relying on guys from fucking 10, 15 years ago. A bunch of garbage. Next up was Ryback versus the Great Khali. And Ryback's garbage status begins at this point. I said in my Payback review that Ryback will never be in that main event spot again. It's just not going to happen. Not for a very, very, very long time, at least. So, yeah, now he's in matches with the Great Khali. It was a squash match. I didn't watch it. I didn't care. And up next, we had the Dick Face promo. And he was being especially dicky tonight. John Cena comes out and he says on the rampway, before he even does his goofy-ass run down to the ring, "I'm a human onion. Just another layer. Let it rain down." Because the crowd's booing the fuck out of him again. And it was at that point that I just wanted to punch my fucking TV. I just wanted to put a fist through my TV because the guy's such an asshole. It's another one of those things. You're going to boo me? Guess what? I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to stay right here with this belt, making this money, and being the face of this company. Fucking dragging it down into the fucking mud. What a piece of shit. Then, as this segment progresses, before he starts talking, they reveal the newest WWE magazine cover. And it's a giant fucking picture of John Cena saluting, doing his ridiculous fucking salute. This guy's not a Marine, he's not a soldier, and I can tell you that soldiers all across the world for the United States, they shed a tear because the WWE is still so blatantly using them to put John Cena over and to try to make themselves relevant in the mainstream media. And it's a goddamn shame. It's disgusting. How the WWE exploits the troops. Fucking garbage. And I really, really had a hard time getting through this promo. It was fucking boring. People were chanting boring multiple times throughout this match, and all Cena basically said was that he was going to bury Mark Henry by the time he's done. And you know what? He's right. He is going to bury him. But what I think the WWE needs to do with this is that they need to let Mark Henry win at Money in the Bank. Yes, they do. Mark Henry needs to win that match, be the WWE champion, come out the next night on Raw and say, now I'm really retiring. That's it. Vacate that title. You got a vacant WWE title, and then you can build up John Cena versus Daniel Bryan at SummerSlam. And Daniel Bryan's going to have a hell of a ride until he gets to SummerSlam. And John Cena keeps his job up as a gravedigger, just fucking burying the competition, just fucking burying them. But that's what they should do. But that's not what they're going to do. Oh, also, John Cena should never be allowed to use the phrase whoop ass. Ever. Not ever. Triple Threat tag team match for #1 contender spot. You got the Tons of Fucking Shit versus the Usos versus Drew McIntyre and Jinder Mahal. Right at the beginning of this match, Lawler says it's unusual to see a three-way tag team match on Raw. You know what? That's because there's only like 4 tag teams in the fucking company. So yeah, I'd say it's pretty unusual to have 3 of them in one fucking match. But yeah, the match was there. It was an okay match. It went pretty fast, and the Usos won. I didn't really care, but I do think that Usos versus Reigns and Rollins will be a very exciting match to watch. I think that'll be a pretty good match. And next up, we had the Punk and Paul Heyman segment. CM Punk and Paul Heyman come out. Punk was excellent on the mic in this segment. He basically covered everything that they really go over in that CM Punk Best in the World DVD, if you guys have ever seen that. If not, I recommend you check it out. It's a very good DVD. But he basically covered a lot of stuff that was covered in that DVD about how he, got a lot of hype in the indies, got signed by the WWE, sent immediately down to developmental, where Punk was praising the shit out of him, but everybody wanted to get rid of him as soon as they hired him, which didn't make any fucking sense. But there were a lot of good lines that came out of this. Punk says, he doesn't care if Brock is bigger than him or stronger than him. Brock is not better than CM Punk. That was a great line. That was awesome. Paul Heyman was also great on the mic. Said he didn't have anything to do with Brock coming out and attacking him. Swore up and down on his kids' lives and all this garbage. And Punk accepted his apology. They hugged afterwards. And, people were chanting, give him the GTS. They were booing CM Punk. But I think it was the right thing to do. It made sense for CM Punk's character to go this way, to not have the turn by Heyman on Punk happen right now. I'm pretty sure it's going to happen going into the SummerSlam match between Brock and Punk. But I'm fine with the way the segment ended right here. That was pretty good. I was pretty happy with that. But what happened next, I wasn't really getting into this. Darren Young versus CM Punk. First of all, why is Punk taking on Darren Young and not Titus O'Neil? I mean, Titus O'Neil is obviously the more talented of the two. I didn't really fucking understand that. But this match did not really work for me. I understand what they were trying to do here. They're trying to sell that Punk was off of his game mentally because of everything going on with Paul Heyman. So he was having a hard time with this match. But to really actually think that Darren Young, Mr. No Days Off from jobbing, is actually going to have a chance at beating CM Punk, and they almost had him pin CM Punk a couple of times throughout this match. That didn't really work for me. It made Punk look weak. I didn't like it. I mean, I'm all for giving younger guys a push, but it just fell flat for me. It really did. And I did not really enjoy this match. So, eventually, Punk slapped on the Anaconda Vice, and Darren Young tapped out like before the move was even properly applied. That was pretty funny. Then he starts getting double-teamed by both the guys. Curtis Axel comes out to help him. And now there's going to be a tag team match next week with Punk and Axel versus Primetime Players. It just really seems very low for Punk to be working with the Primetime Players. I don't know. It just didn't really work for me. So next up was Stephanie McMahon coming out, and she announces all of the Money in the Bank participants for the WWE title match. You got CM Punk, Daniel Bryan, Sheamus, Randy Orton, Christian, Kane, and Rob Van Dam. Everybody pretty much assumed Rob Van Dam was coming back to be a part of that Money in the Bank match. Glad that he is. That's great. I can tell you that Kane's not going to do a lot. Sheamus will bury other people, but he's not going to take any hard shots. Sheamus doesn't really do that. But the rest of the guys, RVD, it'll be very exciting to see RVD work with Daniel Bryan and Punk and Christian. I mean, fuck, that's pretty good. I'm pretty happy with that. And, alright, let's talk about, this is one of the things, I mean, John Cena was one of the things that brought this showdown from being great. Another one of the things is Vicky Guerrero. There is way too much Vicky Guerrero on this Raw. Way too fucking much. You know how much Vicky Guerrero you get to have on one episode of Raw? One appearance. That's it. If you have any more than one appearance, it drags the quality of the show down. And on this Raw, they had like 7 or 8 Vicky Guerrero segments. Get the fuck out of here. I'm not going to watch that. Hell, I was skipping through every single thing because she's so fucking grating. She's so goddamn annoying and terrible to look at. And, I just want to vomit all over my fucking TV. Ugh. And check my ears to make sure I'm not hemorrhaging from the fucking voices going into my brain, driving me fucking insane. There was a whole lot of Vicky Guerrero tonight. And Brad Maddox, this fucking random dude, is just there wearing his fucking vest, looking like a goddamn idiot. Nobody knows why he's there. And there was this whole thing between Ryback and Jericho. I skipped this. I didn't even know what happened. I had to go back and look when I saw that there was a match made between Ryback and Jericho, to which I say, what the fuck are they doing with Jericho? I mean, I understand Jericho doesn't want to actually win the title at this point. He wants to help to put the younger talent over, and that's great. But the WWE needs to actually work on storylines for him. Not just have him show up and say, okay, I'm fighting you next, and now I'm going to fight you next. Yeah, you'll beat me, and you'll beat me too, and I'll have this guy beat me, but build up an angle. Don't just come out one week and say, I want to wrestle this guy next. There's got to be a little more to it than that. And 0 fucking Vicky Guerrero. Jesus Christ. So next up was a Mark Henry promo. And Mark Henry was... he was good on the mic tonight. He did a good promo. He's usually pretty good on the mic when he's allowed to be the dominant, strong character that he is and not the goofy bullshit character that they use him for sometimes. This was good. He was always really great at letting the crowd feed into the what chants, because he's that very slow talker on the mic. He leaves spaces between all of his sentences, and the crowd always gets him with the what. But then he gets them right back. And he did it again tonight. He dominated them, and I enjoyed that. I thought it was funny. And like I said, it was a decent promo. It says he's going to beat Cena for the title, basically. But I know, you know, everybody knows that's not what's going to happen. It should, but that's not what's going to happen. And finally, we have the main event, the match of the night. Daniel Bryan versus Randy Orton. Crowd got to vote on the stipulation just like last week. And it's a street fight, which is basically a no DQ match, which is what they picked last week. So it's pretty much a redo of the match last week that had to get stopped because of medical reasons for Daniel Bryan. Wow, this match was great. This match was fucking awesome. I mean, this started out great, and they just kept doing more and more spots, more and more good storytelling during the match. Total great story during this match that elevated this match into like awesome status. Absolutely great match. Awesome match. I was surprised. I wasn't really surprised that this was the main event. I was just more thinking, finally, this is the main event. Finally, Daniel Bryan is in the main event. And the guy, Daniel Bryan, has been very over. He's been the most over guy in the company for weeks at least now. Probably longer than that, people could argue. But he's definitely lately been the hottest thing in the company. And for the WWE to put him in the main event with no sort of title, no sort of John Cena to be found anywhere, that is a statement that the WWE says they're ready to push this guy. They are pushing him. I mean, he is moving up to that main event level. And that's great. I mean, that's really great. I'm very happy to see that. This match was fucking amazing. With Daniel Bryan in these main event matches, you're going to get more great wrestling like this on a consistent basis. I mean, he's always wrestled great, but now the crowd's behind him, and it just feels so much more intense. It gets that epic, gets your adrenaline pumping kind of feeling, and I love that. It's good stuff. Lots of great spots in this match. Daniel Bryan took a chair shot to the head when he was trying to do a suicide dive through the ropes. That was awesome. Orton was on the apron. Daniel Bryan was doing these running drop kicks to him to try to put him through a table on the outside. Did it twice, didn't work. So the third time, Orton goes to grab him as he's running towards him. Bryan slides under the ropes, grabs him, powerbomb. Awesome spot. What else happened? Oh, man. Daniel Bryan kicking Orton in the head and then hitting him with the kendo sticks, alternating back and forth. It was fucking great. That was brutal. I loved it, man. It was epic. It was totally awesome. And then to close the match, Bryan's got the label lock cinched in. Orton's trying, this is the second time he's had it locked in. Orton's trying to use the kendo stick just like he did the first time to get out of it. This time, Bryan grabs the stick, uses it for extra leverage on Orton. Orton has no choice to tap out. Bryan gets a submission victory on Randy Orton. Amazing stuff. Okay, this is huge because Orton never taps out. So for Daniel Bryan to get Orton to tap out, that is a great statement right there. And for, it was great storytelling, the way they worked the kendo stick and the submission and then use that at the end for the finish. Very good stuff. And then afterwards, Orton doesn't give him the RKO like everyone's expecting. Instead, he shakes his hand. Great sign of respect between the two guys. And Daniel Bryan just really works as a babyface at this point. He's really working. The young kids can get behind him because he is a good guy, and he can cut those PG promos. The general crowd can get behind him because it's a great underdog story that the WWE is doing so well with Daniel Bryan, something they haven't done in a long time. It's really working, and the more hardcore wrestling, technical wrestling fans can really appreciate it because it's a guy that can work in the ring and he's getting all the credit that he deserves right now. So the more smart fans can get behind him as well. So he's got all the bases covered, and the WWE has a great thing in Daniel Bryan right now. And I really am hoping, but I'm also keeping myself reserved that they do well by Daniel Bryan here. So we'll see what happens in the coming weeks. But yes, I would say this is a solid, good episode of Raw. And hell, I'm almost ready to recommend this to my friends at this point. To say, hey, why don't you go check out, I know you haven't watched wrestling in like 5 years, but you know what? Check out this episode of Raw. You might be surprised. Just skip John Cena and skip all of that Vicky Guerrero, that landscape of Vicky Guerrero garbage. And you will appreciate the show. So, yeah, that's what I got to say. That's my review. JB Squared 61279. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.